Hello and welcome to this edition of RealityChek Conversations. I'm Tanya Cervoni. Today, I'm really excited to have Kassy Laborie with me today. Kassy is a online virtual facilitator. She's a producer. She's an instructional designer. Suffice to say, she's just an expert in all things virtual. You can read more about Kassy's background on the link by clicking the link below this video. There is one other thing I do want to mention because I have it right here next to me. She's also the co-author of this book, Interact and Engage. And as you can see, there are over 50 activities that you can read about to ensure that you're creating engaging online environments, which is what we want to talk about today. So Kassy, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me here today. I'm so excited.
Great, me too. So a lot of us have been catapulted into this virtual environment. Folks like yourself, obviously, we're already playing in this space and comfortable. But for those of us who were not spending as much time in the virtual environment, it's been a little bit of a struggle, a big learning curve. So I'm wondering if you could share with us sort of what you've been seeing out there, maybe some pitfalls that you're seeing that we're falling into, and then sharing some strategies that we can start to employ that we're really ensuring that we're taking advantage of the virtual environment to ensure that's engaging, whether that's team meetings or training or any kind of communication.
Oh, I'd love to. There certainly have been many pitfalls. I think we've all just been thrown into this, whether we knew what in the world we were doing or not. And a lot of that's positive because there's something to be said about if you want to learn how to swim, just jump into the deep end, you know, although you might have been traumatized by such a thing, which many of us are dealing with. We have maybe online meeting trauma, you know, as a result. But I think probably one of the biggest pitfalls I'm seeing is the expectation that you can just click a link and it's all going to work, that somehow a live online meeting or training is going to be like clicking a YouTube link or just pressing a link on our phones, and that it will just work. And I think that we're forgetting that even to make YouTube work, we had to make sure that we had the proper internet connection, and you had to have a sound card. And there's some things in the beginning that happened a long time ago that we've all forgotten about because we, you know, live and breathe and sleep with all of our technology, you know, that we need to pay attention to with online meetings, because it's pretty complex to do all of this. There's a lot going on around in your environment right now. And then the technology itself, it works pretty smoothly in most cases, but even all the technologies, they were all bombarded essentially overnight. Mm-hmm. And they're all scrambling to do what they can to stay afloat. And so I think paying attention to, okay, what technology are we using, and what are the leading practices for putting that together and making sure that people are going to be successful. You know, I think like basics, like you need to be in a quiet space. And I understand that things are difficult right now with the current environment, but having some kind of somewhat private space that's going to have some kind of quiet around you, because you're going to be live and there's going to be other people seeing. If you're on camera, they're going to see around you. And of course, being on audio, they're going to hear you. And so that leads to, you know, setting up the space, making sure we're okay to be seen and to be heard, and then taking a moment to learn how the tools work. Wait, what's the button? You know?
Oh yeah, I've heard that question many times.
Yes. What's the shortcut for mute? You know, like I know Alt-A often works, or Shift-M, depending on what tool you're in. Find out.
I didn't know that one. I knew the space bar. I think that's Zoom, but I'm not even sure.
You know,
You just did it. Yep.
Alt-A muted me in this system, so there you go. So just knowing these kind of things, and never take for granted that anyone knows it, because actually if you just assume everyone does not know it and you take a moment to go through and say, let's figure out how this world's going to work, then you're going to be more successful.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, I mean, you know what you think about when you and I first met, I was doing a talk, we did that HR Disrupt series, yeah. And that's where you and I first came in contact with one another. Lucky me. And one of the big things that I talked about in that talk, and it's still relevant for today, if not more, is that people just don't know how to be in these environments. And we keep thinking that if they click the link, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's actually just not the case. There's other things they need to understand how to do. And then once they get here, we're all on camera in most of these tools and we're all smiling. And the poor person leading the meeting or the training is, begging people to participate. And they don't, even though you're sitting there smiling on camera, they don't really respond when you ask a question, do they?
No, and it can be incredibly awkward, right? So we're all in this gallery view, and then the leader of the meeting, starts to want to get people talking, and then you just get, these smiles. And I think there's a number of things. I think in a room, we can all start talking at once, and within a few seconds, we determine who's really got the floor. But online, it's almost like it needs to be more structured or something. So maybe you can talk a little bit.
That's exactly it, because we have to use these features to replace the nonverbal communications that we're so used to in person. And so I make it part of my regular vernacular. How's everybody doing today? Type it in the chat. Green check if you really wish it was already the weekend. Wait, what's a weekend?
Yeah, right.
Relate to that. Red X if you can't. And then once you get that chat, or once you get that green check or raise hand or whatever you're using, then you have to say, oh, Tanya, I noticed you said in the chat that this. Let's talk about that. Let's dive deeper on that. Oh, hey, John, what did you think of what Tanya just typed and what she just said? Come off of mute, Alt-A. You have to guide the space, the physicality of the space a little more. And that's awkward at first.
Yeah, that role of guiding, and that goes back to really understanding the tools, and you really have to think through it different. I heard a strategy the other day because one person was saying they were doing sort of a round table of how is everyone doing? So how are you doing, Kassy? How are you doing, Tanya? And first of all, that took up half the meeting time. So what she switched to is using 5 fingers, and she could have used the chat or the check marks. Give me a 5 out of 5 if you're fantastic, or like a 1 if, and everybody just held up their fingers, or, you immediately knew where someone was at. And then you could tap on someone's shoulder, say, okay, Tanya, you're a 5. Tell me about why you're at a 5.
What that means. Exactly. So there's things in these tools, like you could bring up, like I love to bring up a PowerPoint slide that is prepared for people to type upon. Like today I brought up a slide. We did these teach backs in a train the trainer program that I am running. And after we did the teach backs, I brought up a PowerPoint slide that had a beautiful picture of a lake, and there was a reflection on the lake. And I made it transparent so it was very light. And I had them all type on my slide using their annotation tools, a moment of reflection of this experience today.
Oh, that's good.
While they're reflecting, and they're typing on the screen using the annotation tools. And then once we're done typing, I'm like, let's talk about it. Look, there's so many commonalities. There's some unique things here. Let's, you can dive deeper there and facilitate as you normally do.
So I think one of the advantages of us meeting all together is I'm noticing in some ways more people have that opportunity to participate, because when you're using the chat and you're using the annotation, that we may all participate in a way that we might not be if we were just sitting in a room together.
That's right. I think so. It's like we have the chance to let everyone participate if we use the tools, as you've said. And then what we need to do is, if everyone does chat or if everyone writes on the screen, we need to plan for time to let people then discuss that. Because a lot of times you can also get into all chat all day, and that's probably just as bad as nothing happening, right? And so, the presenter reading the chats out loud as they come through, that's horrible. And so what I try to do when the chats come through, at least I think it's horrible. When the chats come through, I like to look at it as if it was conversation. In fact, I've been using this word chatversation, which is in my book. Let's have a chatversation. And so if somebody types, that's been really challenging for me to deal with. I might say, oh yeah, I get that. Let's talk about that a little further, Michelle. And maybe, Peter, you can relate to that. I saw you typed it too. Let's come off mute and discuss that a little bit.
That's a really good tip, because typically everybody can be reading what's in the chat anyway. And so you reading it to them is not really that helpful. So it's like taking it to the next level and turning it into a chatversation. Is that what you said?
A chatversation. And in fact, I'll say, hey, everyone, look what's happening in the chat. Look what Michelle just wrote.
Okay, very good.
What do you all think about that? Raise your hand who wants to respond first.
Okay.
Out loud, you already read it. So, and sometimes I have to guide people, because they can say, well, I was looking at the other screen. And so sometimes if it's really important, I might go, hey, everyone, let's take a look at what's coming through in the chat. Take a moment to read that. What do you guys think of what Tanya said? Who wants to talk first? Raise your hand.
Right. Okay.
And I'm not asking people to raise their hand because they're kids. I'm asking people to raise their hand just so I know who wants to go first.
Right.
So there's a tone that's there. And it's just more about, we don't want to, you know, people don't want to talk over each other. They don't want to talk out of turn. They don't want to be embarrassed, generally speaking. And so it's going to be up to us as the leaders of the sessions, trainer, presenter, host, whatever it is, to then guide how should a person respond in each moment. And so in this moment, let me share my screen. We're going to draw on my slide, post your reflections here. When you're done, give me a green check. I'll be quiet while you do that.
So that's great. So I think, you know, if I summarize, it's like know the tools, help people understand how we're going to use the tools so they don't feel like, you know, they're being treated like a child, like raise your hand, and then really needing to guide people in using them effectively and model that. So in addition to the book that I pointed out, I heard there's a new book coming out. If people want some more tools, can you tell us a little bit about this before we wrap this up?
Well, I had the great honor of working virtually. And so when this pandemic occurred, everyone is interested in working with me. They now finally understand what I do. And at the same time, I happened to be finishing my second book. So I had double the amount of work. And I'm finally finishing it. I have one more chapter and it should be out by the end of this year, early next year, ATD Press. And it's on the topic of producing virtual training and other online events. And we're still working with the title, but the working title right now is Producing Virtual Events. So nice and clear. But I'm really excited to get that done. It's a book that has allowed me to dive a whole lot deeper into the technical side of things and how much this technology supports or gets in the way of our ability to be engaging. So I'm excited.
Fantastic. Congratulations in advance. I can't wait to check it out. So I want to close on a personal note and an uplifting one, and to ask you, what's one positive thing that you're seeing that you've either experienced or that you've witnessed coming out of this COVID-19 crisis?
The first one is that my family finally really understands what I do. That they too are doing it. And then the second thing is, this is something that's very special that's happened. I am a big fan of music, and I love rockabilly music, and I have a lot of friends who play music, and that's how they make livelihood. That is their livelihood. And what's been happening is just book live or, you know, other online sessions of people just playing music from their homes, and all of us gathering together from all around the world, where, you know, normally it would be like I'd have to see you when I went to a show, but now we're all online and we're enjoying the music. And I just hadn't really experienced that as much as I am virtual and have done this for 2 decades. That level and having that kind of interpersonal part of my social life as well happen, and in such a way that the musicians who were, you know, struggling to still be able to play and really feed off of a live audience, I see how emotional they're getting. And I've just really been enjoying that lately, and I'm thankful for the realization that we can use these live online technologies to do those types of things as well.
That's wonderful. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for all the tips. And it was great having you.
Thank you for having me. It was great to see you again.
And this wraps up this edition of RealityChek Conversations. If you enjoyed this video, please take a moment to share it with your friends and family and to subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss a future episode. Thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.